Welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Let's bring you up to speed with the big happenings in the polity and in politics with the headlines. People's Democratic Party heads to court to recover its mandate following a mass defection of party members to the All Progressives Congress in Delta State. Asks zonal leadership to take charge of Delta. Senate Minority Leader Bamoro says picking former Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa as vice presidential candidate in the last election was a mistake. And Nigerian Bar Association branches in Rivers State condemns recent query issued to the chairman of her Port Harcourt branch, Mrs. Cordelia Eke, by the sole administrator of Rivers State via the Ministry of Justice. Thanks again for joining us on the program. And of course, it's your all-access pass to what's happening in the polity and in politics at midday. Let's get started with what played out in court just about 24 hours ago, where the federal government has finally opened its case by calling its first witness against the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, on allegations of terrorism. At the last hearing, the trial judge, Justice James Omotosho, had approved an accelerated hearing on 7-count terrorism charge leveled against him.
The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, is back at the Federal High Court Abuja for his trial in a case of alleged terrorism leveled against him by the federal government. Mr. Kanu, who is all smiles, is received by his defense team. Present in court also are his family members. At the last hearing, the trial judge had approved an accelerated hearing of the case, and he kept to his words, just as the counsel to the federal government, Adegboyega Awomolo, called its first witness, a DSS officer, who testified behind the screen. This, according to him, is due to the nature of the case and for security reasons. The first witness of the federal government, with code name PWAAA, says he led the team that arrested Kanu at a hotel in Lagos on the 14th of October 2015, and the room where he was arrested looks like a broadcasting studio. Mr. Kanu, who claimed to be in the struggle to make life better for people, admits setting up Radio Biafra as a communication engineer. He, however, admitted not having a license to operate a radio station in Nigeria, which is a crime, but defends his action, saying he knows that if he applies, it won't be granted. In Mr. Kanu's statement, he further admits to fighting for emancipation of the people of Southeast, South-South, parts of Benue and Kogi. He declared that freedom fighting is not a crime in any part of the world, including Nigeria, because it is a fundamental right. The defendant further adds that he believes in the freedom of speech and that the UN Charter on People's Rights guarantees the right to self-determination. He denies involvement in any violence because he has not been linked to anyone. The defense team speaks after the day's proceeding, just as the prosecution declines to react.
The matter has eventually kicked off without rancor. You needed to have been in court to observe the proceedings. All the parties cooperated, and PW1 testified. PW1 is Mr. AAA, as he was designated. He investigated the matter 10 years ago, and today he came and gave his evidence and tendered documents.
The government is finally having the trial that it desires. Our position still remains unchanged despite the ongoing trial, that our client is innocent of the charges, that the case is driven by political considerations, and in the end, the innocence of our client will be established.
After 10 long years, finally Nnamdi Kanu now has his day in court as the Nigerian government called its first witness. The case continues on Friday, May 2nd, under cross-examination by Kanu's lawyer. From the Federal High Court Abuja, Emmanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
But still issues with the issues around the judiciary, but this time in Rivers State, where a growing controversy is unfolding between the Nigerian Bar Association and the state government. 8 NBA branch chairmen across the state have strongly condemned a query issued to the chairman of the association's Port Harcourt branch, Mrs. Cordelia Eke, by the sole administrator of the state, acting through the Ministry of Justice. The query, dated April the 25th and signed by the Director of Administration, Ebereme Ederesima, accuses Mrs. Eke of serious misconduct for allegedly co-authoring a communique that criticized the state administration for what was described as a brazen act of lawlessness, the dismantling of democratic institutions, and attacks on peaceful protesters. The state claims our actions breach civil service rules, calling them inappropriate for a public servant.
Of this query to our brother chairman as an unfortunate act of the sole administrator has decided to use to suppress freedom of speech and constitutional rights of the good people of Rivers State against his various incidences of dismantling peaceful democratic institutions already in existence in Rivers State and other acts and actions capable of causing breach of peace instead of maintaining the peace, which was the primary claim for his appointment as a sole administrator in Rivers State. The query to our learned brother chairman is nothing but a ploy by which the sole administrator seeks to intimidate her into discontinuing her functions and duties of NBA Port Harcourt branch, and an attempt to intimidate lawyers in Rivers State and by extension other good people of Rivers State from standing up and speaking against executive rascality, lawlessness, and impunity. We, the chairman of the NBA branches in Rivers State, condemn in its entirety the query issued to our brother chairman of Port Harcourt branch and demand an immediate withdrawal of same forthwith.
All right, that's coming from the NBA, the 8 branches of the NBA in Port Harcourt defending their own, the chairman of the Port Harcourt branch, who also works with the Ministry of Justice. So we understand the query was issued, and that is why they are coming out to say, separate her from the work with the civil service. But that's another kettle of fish. Let's talk about the mass defection that has rocked the People's Democratic Party and in Delta State. But this is how the National Working Committee of the party, the chairman, the acting chairman, has reacted to that defection. Let's take a listen to him.
I'm glad, I've said it earlier, that the party, the governor and our vice presidential candidate has not faulted the party, nor did the party did anything wrong, rather than their wish, according to them, to join the party, which to me we've taken it with all sort of regret and the pains that has gone down with us. We have also instructed the National Legal Advisor to recover our mandate that they have taken away. The fortune of this party cannot be just left in the hands of our adversaries. So you will take legal action to retrieve those mandates. We've just instructed the zonal caretaker committee to oversee the party in Delta after dissolving all the structures that has already been there, since majority of them has shifted.
All right, that's acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party. A lot has fallen apart since he took leadership, and the party has been in deep chaos. We're being joined in the program by the former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, joining us from Abuja studio, my good friend, Ologbondiyan. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Mr. Ologbondiyan.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Nigerians.
I don't even know where to start with you and the party, Mr. Ologbondiyan, but let me start from the remarks by the Senate Minority Leader. Yes, I'm happy we're laughing about this issue, but I know this is serious for your party. But let's take a listen to what the Senate Minority Leader said yesterday concerning the defection of Ifeanyi Okowa as part of those who defected. Let's take a listen. Then I'll ask you the question.
Given what we know now, with the hindsight that we have now, some of us think that the party would have won the election if other candidates other than Okowa had been picked as the vice presidential candidate from the South. Well, I think there is an error of judgment on the part of everybody that was involved in the choice of Okowa as the candidate. Because, I mean, come to think about it, how else will you characterize this scenario that a sitting governor, a former senator, a vice presidential candidate of the party, couldn't deliver his state even to the presidential candidate? And to think that 2 out of the 3 senators from that state were from the opposition parties other than the PDP. PDP won only 1 senatorial election. And I can tell you today that that person definitely may have won that election on his own merit because of his pedigree and his contribution to the community. And so I think that picking Okowa as the vice presidential candidate of the PDP in 2023 was a very serious mistake of judgment. As it is now, you can safely conclude that we lost the election because of lack of commitment. Otherwise, how can you explain that shortly after losing his state, that ordinarily should have been a very easy pick for the PDP, instead of rendering apology to the party and Nigeria, he is now talking about regretting being on the ticket. That means that he was not in the first place. His soul was not in the PDP. His soul was not in that election. And that is why we performed very miserably in Delta State.
Mr. Ologbondiyan, I've given you 2 positions, Damagun and Abba Moro. Your response?
Thank you very much. Well, I don't know what you want me to respond to in respect of the acting national chairman, Ambassador Umar Ilyas Damagun's position. I don't know, maybe you want me to correct him. I don't know, maybe you want me to add to what he has said. Because I agree that the party can go ahead and ask the courts to revert its mandates to the party, and that's the man. If there are members of the party who are in the State House of Assembly or at the National Assembly who have defected and want to retain those respective seats, I think the party has the right within the Constitution, if it is not managed again in the courts, to demand that its mandates in respect of those seats be returned to it. So, but I do not think that the party, under the Constitution that we practice, if we do still practice the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, as amended, if we do still uphold it as the great instruments of governance, I don't think the party has the liberty or the power to go and ask that Sheriff Oborevwori leave his seat. We don't have the power to do that in line with the Constitution. But also, we must not also forget that even in the case that we are still battling with, which concerns Rivers, the decision of the working committee, as represented by Umar Damagun, is still fresh in the public space. So I don't think I want to go into such details. And concerning my respected brother, Senator Abba Moro's disposition on what happened in 2023, I think we have all seen and come short of the glory. So I don't think we need to go back there. I think what we need to do now is to be focused and look forward and see how we can recover the party and give it the direction which the ordinary people on the streets, the ordinary members of the People's Democratic Party, are asking for. So I think that is my own reaction.
And that's where I want you to pick it up from, Mr. Ologbondiyan. I just wanted you to react to the 2 positions. But what is your position on the way forward? Because that is the chairman's position on way forward. He said, look, thank God nobody said we did anything wrong. Well, I don't think that is entirely correct, because they reference the party and what is going on in the party, although they did not dwell on it in that sense, in terms of the disagreement, especially the national secretary issue, which the governors took a position. There are triggers to all of this. The Rivers issue, the National Secretary position, and then the governors meeting in Oyo that came out to declare position as to who they want to recognize as the National Secretary. So some of them are referencing this as triggers. I spoke with one member yesterday, said their future is neither here nor there. So in your view, is going to cut the way for what exactly should be the beginning of recovering the PDP? Because this is getting worse by the day. In fact, we hear there are more governors that are on their way out as well. Some are not saying they are their way out, but they've clearly said, look, in this 2027, as far as this 2027 election is concerned, we're supporting Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, even as members, governors elected on the platform of the PDP.
Yeah, Geoffrey, you recall some of our debates on this platform. And the position that I took, which some people consider as extreme, I had consistently stated that until Ambassador Ilyas Damagum vacates office, the party will go nowhere. I have not detached from it, and I will not stop saying it, because that's the absolute truth. Because the party is not being properly managed. And the only way that you can have a headway is to allow the party to be properly managed. I mean, we have had series of conflicts in which, National Executive Committee meeting will be postponed severally. And this is the only organ that the National Working Committee, which Damagum heads, respects. So if somebody now came out and said that, because we cannot manage our party, I have no option than to leave. So will you say that the person has acted wrongly? No. Even though we do not foreclose the fact that there are other issues which are in public space concerning the hounding of our members, the intimidation of our governors, the forceful effort to make sure that, they leave their party and join the APC, and make them to begin to do campaign for Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, even in an election that is more than 2 years ahead. It is funny for us, but I believe that the pathway and the headway now is to see how we can even recover the party. I'm not somebody that will latch to the argument that, nobody can defeat the current president. Any politician that puts himself out for election can neither win or be defeated in election. So to me, it is totally a misplaced aphorism for people who are saying that, a particular candidate cannot be defeated. If he won in one particular election and when he was not president, how can he be defeated? President Jonathan was defeated. He was an incumbent president. And every election, Geoffrey, has its waves. The wave that brought in Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, if you apply the same wave in 2027, it might take him out. So that is the way elections are. And that's what I want Nigerians to accept. So if you feel comfortable with a system of governance that in which you cannot even eat two meals in a day, in which you cannot afford your medication, in which you cannot pay your rent, in which you cannot even afford the fees of your children, if that's comfortable for you, go ahead and vote. But people should not come on air and start saying that a particular candidate cannot be defeated. I think that is not applicable in the situation that we are. So going back to the issue of yes.
Yeah, land on your thought, then I can throw in my question.
Geoffrey, I'm listening to you.
Okay, so there's another question that was raised.
To me,
just land on your thought, then I'll throw my question in.
Okay, Geoffrey. Okay, so for me, these are a number of issues that has brought the party to where it is. The party leadership, as we speak today, did not manage the situations that arose in the party well. 1. 2, there are issues about people being hounded, about people being intimidated, about people being enforced to join the APC. So you cannot take one away from the other. I think this is just the way the issues that have arose in our recent political climate are.
So it's more like an omnibus in that sense. So let's begin to unpack them in bits. Let's begin with the party itself, before we talked about externalities in terms of whether the APC is using the power of state to blackmail or coerce or whatever term is being used, you know, like Okowa's case now, they are saying it's because he's facing the EFCC on allegation of over 1 trillion naira embezzlement or misappropriation as alleged. So he wants to get a soft landing and all of that. There are all kinds of speculation. But let's come back to the party itself. So I have noticed, it just caught my mind yesterday while I was on the show, that in 2019, Peter Obi had run on as a running mate to Atiku Abubakar. And by 2023, Peter Obi left for the Labour Party, and that tsunami of Obi in terms of coming third in that election. And then we also are ahead of 2027. And the person who was vice presidential candidate of Atiku Abubakar, the same Atiku Abubakar, has now left the party. So in quick succession, all his vice presidential candidates have left the party. So what is it that the party has to do in terms of commitment? In fact, I heard Okowa is saying that even Atiku Abubakar himself may even leave the party soon. But that will not be a surprise as well, because he's left party before. So what, in your view, can be done to bring cohesion? Is besides the sacking or the removal of Elias Damagona, as you've constantly maintained, what other thing can be done?
Well, we need to go back into the party and to now sit down and conduct a post-mortem on how did we get here, and from there take a decision on what we are going to do next. But if you have a situation in which you can't even sit down to discuss the issues because an acting national chairman who is illegally occupying the position is insisting on sitting tight and not even allowing the party to hold sessions, not allowing the party to hold meetings. So where would that lead to? So what's important, what's imperative at this moment, Geoffrey, is the ability of the party to return inwards and review what had happened to it in the last 2 years. That is the point at which we can take off. So if we have not arrived at that point, and we have not even held discussions, and everybody is looking for how to go to another safe haven, whether that can be found anywhere, because I cannot imagine you have a home which you build for yourself, and you have your peace in that home, then you woke up one day and say the next thing to do is to propel yourself into another home where your enemies are gathered. I don't understand. Even if they are telling you that you are not a tenant, that you are an owner of the house, won't you even think about it? What if those people that ran away from you in the first place, in the place where you have your peace, are at the other end? Now you go to join them, they leave that place for you, which is possible in human nature. They leave that space for you and say, okay, no problem. You have come here, we will live here for you again. They return to where you are coming from, or they return to another space. How do you look at that? You cannot solve a problem by running away from it. Let's stay in here and find solution to these challenges. That is my own approach. That is my own advice. And whatever sacrifice that is required, and I mean whatever sacrifice that is required to uphold the party, we should be prepared to give it out.
So in closing, what is the best approach right now for you? Is it joining a coalition to see what you can get out in 2027, or just put that institution called the PDP in order and just maybe look out for whatever it is that are the possibility? What should be the priority? Putting the party in place or putting the coalition to whatever fights the APC in the next election? Because it looks like, on one hand, some members of the party are looking at 2027 election, while some members of the party are saying, before we even start talking election, yes, that's the reason why we're a political party, to take power. Let's even put our house in order, because those are the divergent views that are causing this friction here and there.
Geoffrey, you will recall that on occasions that we have had this debate, I had said, and I'm still insisting, every party, including Mr. President's All Progressives Congress, will have to face implosion. Today, it is the PDP's implosion that we are talking about. Certainly tomorrow we will talk about APC's implosion. There's no running away from that fact. So if implosion happens, wherever everybody finds him or herself, you will need to revert back and look at the dimensions and say, oh, okay, how do we go from here? Look, today they are talking about they are talking about, Delta decamping. Oh, they will even still talk about, maybe they might even still have to talk about that state decamping. That is for PDP. I hope you are aware that even the ACN, which Asiwaju led to the APC, is in shreds, is divided, is in shreds. So there will be implosion everywhere. But how do we now regroup? How do we recoup? I think that's the issue. If that regrouping requires coalition, fine. If it requires that, oh, let's see whether there will be other people who also lose their bases that will come and join the PDP, fine. But what's important, what's imperative, is that before we get there, let us have a house that is prepared, that is ready for the next election.
In 10 seconds.
Mind you, Geoffrey,
yes.
In 2019, in Oyo State,
yes, in 10 seconds.
In Oyo State, we didn't have House of Rep. Maybe we have it, maybe it was one. Maybe if we have House of Assembly, it will be two. But we won election in Oyo in 2019. In 2023, we had everything in Delta. We lost election. So it's about the waves that every election goes with.
Okay, I like your optimism. That means, in your view, the PDP members should not be afraid that the party is dying. Yes or no?
All we just need to do is to come together and make our platform enviable to other political parties. Okay. And if we need to coalesce, we'll go ahead and coalesce.
Ologbondiyan, always a delight talking with you, the former PDP National Publicity Secretary. I'm happy you always maintain your position. And I'm still looking at you for that our next meeting. I keep regretting almost every other day that I did not get into a bet with you. I should have been a millionaire by now.
Don't worry. Don't worry. May 27 is here. May 27 is here.
I'll be here. By the grace of God, I'll be here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on the program. Thanks for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.